What's up, guys? We're going to be breaking down how high income earners, perhaps in their 30s and 40s, in their prime earning years, should build wealth. The reason why I wanted to make this episode is the playbook here is going to look a little different than your average person. So stick around and we'll break it all down for you. I promise you don't want to miss it. Welcome back, guys. If you like today's content, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so that you can keep getting content just like this. And of course, if you need help with your own financial plan, reach out to us at www.modernwealth.com. That's modern spelled with no vowels, wealth.com. So if you're watching this, I'm guessing you're making pretty good money and looking to optimize all that hard-earned cash. But before we dive in, I want you to take a moment to think about just how blessed you really are. Most people aren't in your financial position and would do anything to be in your shoes. So take a moment to reflect on this and be grateful for this. The reason why I want to stress this is that some of the most miserable, unpleasant people that I've worked with in my career, whether it be professionally or serving as their planner, are the folks making crazy amounts of money, but they refuse to enjoy the fruits of their labor. There is zero appreciation for the fact that they're in the financial position that they are, and they are miserable as a result. So be thankful, be grateful, responsibly enjoy the fruits of your labor, and most importantly, enjoy the journey. Next, I need you to find your financial why. And to understand the importance of this, let's compare this to fitness for a second. If you had a goal of losing body fat, you wouldn't just simply think really hard about this goal and just hope it happens. If you're really serious about it, you're probably tracking your caloric intake, your diet and meal plans are rock solid, and you're following a fantastic program in the gym if you're really trying to make this goal happen. And it's the same thing here from a financial standpoint. If your financial why is making working in corporate America optional in 10 years, then following a plan to build the wealth needed to make that happen is going to be much easier to follow and execute on because you know exactly what you're working towards. So now that we got our mind right, because building wealth is mental as much as it is something tangible, you need to be aware of lifestyle creep. You talk about something that will absolutely dismantle your ability to save and build wealth, it's lifestyle creep. If you're not familiar with this, lifestyle creep is when you start making more money and instead of perhaps increasing your savings rate, you instead increase your spending to an excessive degree. Now again, as I mentioned earlier, I want you to enjoy the fruits of your labor, but we need to do it in moderation. Now, lifestyle creep can manifest itself in lots of different ways, but the most common and most detrimental ways it manifests itself are the following. Number one, high housing costs. This is where we see someone go from making, let's say, $150,000 a year to $300,000, and now they want to buy a 5-bedroom house with an infinity pool and carry a mortgage of $8,000 a month that they can barely afford. The second most common way are with vehicles. So financing an Audi R8 and having a $2,000 car payment just because you can. Remember, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And the third most common way we see lifestyle creep manifest itself is actually through childcare costs. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about hiring a nanny or costs like that because a lot of these costs for many parents are absolutely needed. It's more so little Timmy needs to play club soccer and that's $5,000 a year. Oh, and he also needs to have private piano lessons. That's another $2,000 a year. Oh, and he needs to do this. That's another $10,000 a year, right? You get the idea. These type of costs that are somewhat optional, not necessarily needed, can stack up and really dismantle your personal savings plan. Next, we got to take advantage of the fact that you are making this amount of money. Because here's the deal. 10 years from now, you might not want to be working the same way you are now. Maybe you'll want to step back and do something a little bit more chill for less money. The bottom line is, we don't know what tomorrow holds, but we can take advantage of this golden opportunity to really stack up. Last week, we broke down an example of how a couple making $400,000 in California was able to go from $0 in savings to having over $1 million in 5 years by taking advantage of strategies like the Mega Backdoor Roth, the Backdoor Roth, an HSA, a brokerage account, and more. If you want to see exactly how it unfolds, I'll leave a link in the description of this episode so that you can see it play out. Now, in that same episode, we saw this couple go from $0 to having over $10 million in savings before they turned 55. Now, obviously, they did a fantastic job stacking up and saving money, but we also assumed they were investing and at least earning a rate of return of 7.5% per year. Had they not invested and earned that average rate of return, the results would have looked very different. So in my opinion, the easiest way to ensure you get a nice sustainable rate of return over a long period of time is number one, invest as much of your savings as possible. Too many high income earners do a decent job saving, but let the money that isn't going to their 401k just pile up in cash. The second big issue to be aware of is lack of diversification in your investing strategy. If most of your money is just in a single stock, and that stock has crappy returns for the next decade, that will impact the amount of wealth you build up significantly. Heck, even if your portfolio is just in one flavor of stocks, that could even impact your returns. We saw from 2000 to 2010, if you owned only large US companies and let's say the S&P 500, your average return per year was just 0.32% per year. Now, another issue that a lot of high income earners face is the fact that they have all this extra money that they can save up. But instead of just saving that money up and investing it, they instead rush to pay off their home. They see TikToks and other videos about how if you make an extra $1,000 a month towards principal every month on your mortgage, you'll not only save a bunch of interest, but you'll own your home faster. The problem with this approach is that if you are effectively tying up too much of your money in an illiquid asset like your home, and to top that off, you're utilizing the extra money during these high earning years that may not last forever in a way where 10 years from now, that yes, on paper, your net worth looks really big. The problem is most of your equity is in your home. Unless your plan is to sell your home or do a big cash out refi, you're going to have substantially less capital on hand to make decisions like retire early. My philosophy is to build up that big, massive $1 million plus portfolio first. And then once you have all that money saved up, if at that point you want to be aggressive about paying off your home, go for it. Now, we've talked a lot about how to build wealth, but you also need to know how to protect yourself as well. I'm a football guy, and it's kind of like playing defense. Everybody wants to see the big touchdowns and see the big plays, but the reality is that you can't win games if your defense sucks. So the 4 simplest things that you can do to defend yourself to ensure that you continue to build and preserve your wealth are number 1, ensuring you have a disability policy that covers 2/3 of your pre-tax income. Ideally, that policy is an own occupation disability policy, meaning that if you were to become disabled and weren't able to work in your specific line of work, then the policy would pay out. Number 2, you gotta have decent personal liability coverage. Generally, this is done through an umbrella policy on your home. We live in a highly litigious society, and because you are a high earner, you have a target on your back. Having good liability coverage can give you that extra protection in the event someone tries to sue you. The third thing to be aware of is you gotta have term life insurance to protect your loved ones. Notice I said term, not whole life. This should generally cost no more than $100 a month in most cases. Finally, you gotta have some sort of estate plan. Generally, this means an estate plan where you have a revocable trust at the center of it, but not always. But bottom line is you need something in place. Finally, guys, you need to know what your why in life is. We've talked a lot about financial stuff. We've even talked about knowing what your financial why is. But you got to know what your why in life is. And I'll give you a really good example of this. I was working with a client and we were talking about their savings plan, and they expressed to me how their family is the most important thing to them, and that their dream is to quit working in their 40s so that they can just coach their kids' sports and be there for them as they grow up. That was this person's why in their life. Now, obviously, they have a plan built around savings towards that goal and making it happen, but notice their why isn't money related. It's about their family. It's about coaching their kids and being there for them. It's about not missing the big moments. That's the type of why I'm talking about, something that meaningful. 1 in 3 people who retire experience depression. That is a rate much higher than the rest of the population. And I believe this statistic because I've seen it in the past with my own clients when they retire. And it makes a lot of sense. When your identity is your job, and when your entire life is centered around saving and building wealth, and when you retire, you don't get to do that anymore, things can get really tough. But if you have a greater purpose and a bigger why in your life than just money, you're not only going to save a ton of money and build a ton of wealth, but you're going to be a hell of a lot happier doing it. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you need help building your own financial plan to address these type of issues, reach out to us at www.modernwealth.com. That's modern spelt with no vowels, wealth.com. We'll see you next time.